You know the day destroys the night, night divides the day. Try to run, try to hide, break on through to the other side. Break on through to the other side. Break on through to the other side.
God bless America. Welcome to The Ranch, everybody, the podcast that explores the people and happenings of Dry Creek Ranch, Eagle, and the greater Boise area. Big shout out to a local business today, Lonnie Childs and Action Garage Door. We had some issue with our garage door, especially since it's so windy here in Dry Creek Ranch. I had been kind of fighting with it, spraying WD-40. My wife finally breaks, calls Action Garage Door, and Lonnie shows up. This man crushed. I was just kind of blown away by him because not only did he do exactly what we were hoping he would do, but he was like, look, you have any problem at all, even if I'm off, this is my cell phone. I will come over with my toolkit in my car and fix this, but call me for anything. So we all have big garage doors here. Some of us even have RV garages and stuff. If you have any issue at all with it, call Lonnie Childs. Now, my guest today is also a small business owner right here in Dry Creek Ranch. He has been working on people's hair and their face and everything for some time now. He's a riot to talk with. I really enjoyed him. And this conversation actually wandered into some of his undercover work when he was a police officer, which he was for some time. So I wouldn't recommend all of it for young ears. But again, really enjoy this guy. Really enjoy what he's doing. And I'm just pumped that we have people like this in Dry Creek Ranch, frankly, because again, they're the backbone of communities and kind of hold everybody together. But without further ado, the man, the myth, the legend, the proprietor of Garage of Groom, Mike Byers. Thank you for coming, sir.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you were saying at 4th of July, 2 a.m., over near where Subtle and Rainy hit.
Yeah.
You guys had an amazing fireworks show, by the way. We could see from my house, we could see the one going on in the soccer field. Well, both of them, because there was like... There was one up front and one,
Right.
And then we could see yours going on at Subtle and Rainy. We could see the one at the end of West Cardinal through one of the kids' windows, and then we could see another one kind of going off by Boucher's house. Man, it was wild.
It was
a great time, and it went on for hours.
It did. We had a great time. That's one of the many. My wife and I, our anniversary is on July 3rd.
Oh, congratulations! Look at you.
Thank you. And the reason we did that, we both love 4th of July. We love America. Yeah. We try to do something different every year, but it looks like going forward, it'll be right here on the 4th of July because we had a blast. My goal was to at least have a good show, and I think I did all right. But last year, we came up here for the first time to see the 4th of July, and we were in contract, and I wanted to see what it was going to be like up here. So we rented a VRBO up on top of the hill that looked down upon Dry Creek Ranch and the rest of the Treasure Valley. It didn't disappoint. 3 nights in a row, with the 4th being the coup de grace. It looked like a war zone in the Treasure Valley. It was non-stop. Unlike anything I've ever seen. So this year I stockpiled a bunch. I was buying a little bit here and there. Some of it to keep from my wife. So she wouldn't necessarily know.
Wait, you were purchasing over the course of the year and like stashing it away?
Yes, I was.
That's fantastic, man.
Yeah. So I was pretty calculated about it. It was a great show. It was awesome. It was great to see all the neighbors come out and pull up their chairs, and everybody was having a good time. And I was going for about 2 hours. 2 hours of just nonstop.
So were you able to actually watch the show then? Because a lot of people that when they're lighting them, there's like they're running back and forth and they're not ever really looking up.
So I changed it up this year, and what I did was I just got a bunch of those cakes, the big cakes, and then I was at Lee Family Farms out near Star, Caldwell, Nampa, kind of right at the corners, and they had this contraption that held 12 individual mortars. And I asked him, I go, what's that? He goes, oh, you had to ask. And so he explains it to me. Basically, they take a fuse and they attach the fuse to all the other fuses, and they have fuse clips. So you just light it once and you have 12 mortars that go boom, 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 in quick succession. Man. And that was awesome. And if I hadn't seen that on the actual 4th, I would have built my own. I paid a pretty penny for it because it was the 4th. Right. So I'll have that. I'll pass that on to my kids.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing. The commitment that people have to contributing to these things is is beyond me. I mean, everybody that was putting on the community event and the soccer field, and then the bike parade in the morning, and then I mean, just the astronomical cost of all of those fireworks. I mean, it had to be in the tens and tens and tens of thousands of dollars when you consider the whole neighborhood.
Absolutely, because they're not cheap.
No,
they're not cheap, but that's one of my favorite forms of entertainment. The other is I like to shoot. I like to shoot guns. So if I'm not shooting guns, I'll do that.
The fireworks.
Yeah.
Fireworks work.
Yeah.
So if I may ask, what was going on your end this morning? All right. And again, just for everybody listening, this morning we all woke up and saw, I got text from my neighbors saying like, hey, did anybody come to your house last night? And pretty quickly we find out that there was a group of cars, 2 white sedans that came into the neighborhood. They slammed on my neighbor's door, tried to kick it in. There were footprints, multiple shoes, right? Footprints on the front door. My neighbor has three little kids, right? So he comes flying downstairs. By the time he gets to his front door, they're taken off. And then there was this like long weaving track through the neighborhood where people started picking up and their ring cams, and we were all, on Facebook, people were all checking, okay, did anybody get a video? What time was it? What direction were they going? And they essentially came in and just wove through the neighborhood, smashing car lights and just terrorizing people. And then you were up and like out driving all around the neighborhood this morning. And I was like, is he like scoping it out? Is he like looking for evidence? What are you doing over there?
So when my wife told me, she shared with me what was on Facebook and the Dry Creek page, I was so infuriated because we moved into our house the day after Christmas this last year. So it's only been about 6-7 months.
Right.
But we moved here really to get away from that. I realize that it happens everywhere. But I hopped into my golf cart and I was like, I'm going to cruise around and see what I can find. See if I see anything or if there's any other damage or whatever. But I also wanted to talk to people to find out, do you think these were kids? I didn't think they would be kids playing a prank at 3:30 in the morning.
Right.
Especially if they're doing that, they're usually going to target other kids their age, knowing that family, I'll use the term victim, had somebody kicking on their door at that time of the day or morning. Not okay. So I told my wife, I said, I might even stay up tonight, just go to bed really late, go to bed at like 4. And just sit up and wait and see, because I will do everything in my power to make sure nobody is a victim in this neighborhood. And fortunately, I think we have a lot of people with that same mindset.
Right. What a poor location to do that. I was telling you right before we turned on the mics, like there are tons of vets just on my little street, and people that have, I mean, very real, substantial firearm for home defense and hunting, everything, whatever. But it's like you're dealing with a very well-armed, very diligent population, right? This is not, Dry Creek is not filled with lackadaisical individuals. You're
not at all.
They are here for safety, and and they're again, a large portion of them have been trained in some capacity.
Absolutely. And so I pity them. Should they get caught. I really do. Especially if it's somebody that is ready for them. I'm not saying go and murder them, obviously, but I think a lesson needs to be taught.
Right.
Certainly.
But here's the thing. My buddy who was the victim in this case, he came flying down his stairs, but he has to go like around this thing and then down, switch back the stairs, and then like come around the corner and get through. So it took a long time.
Yeah.
And by the time he got there, they were kind of gone. And I'm sure there was a period of time where he didn't really know, like at least a couple seconds, where he's like, "What's happening?"
Yes.
Right? Like you wake up and you just don't know. But I've had situations like that recently where it was this really unknown noise that kind of happened in the middle of the night.
Right.
And I surprised myself. I was out like flying through the house to make sure nobody was coming through a window or whatever. If that happened at my place, and again, I'm not saying I'd arrive at the front door with a firearm, but I am going through the front door to find out whoever's on the other side instantaneously.
Absolutely.
Like, and it's just such a poor decision. So the reason I don't think I moved from California as well. And we moved, again, very similar reasons. I don't want to be around crime. I don't want to expose my kids unnecessarily to just bad actors, which were all over Northern California.
Yeah, absolutely.
And population growing, obviously, because they weren't actually convicting them of anything.
Right.
So I had the same idea, but here's the thing. If they were looking to burglarize, they likely would not have stopped and then gone through the neighborhood to start smashing lights. No. My neighbor also, and this is what I was thinking, like, this doesn't sound like people that really wanted to get into the house. Like, they didn't smash windows. They weren't quiet about it, right? Like, they kicked the door a couple times and then took off. It's like, well, what do you think is going to happen, right? Like, if you're hell-bent on getting in a house, you're going to get through the front door, the windows or something. Yeah. And then my neighbor also... A different neighbor caught small snippets from his security cameras. He's like, listen, there was loud music blaring. They were clearly teenagers. I don't know if he could really make out any better description, but he's like, it was definitely two groups of teens. Yeah. It's like, man, what's the risk versus reward here?
Yeah, seriously. Seriously. I mean, who knows what would happen? Because each person is going to respond differently to the same situation. But if they were just joking around and they kick the door and the door doesn't open, let's change the scenario. They're down at the corner of Power and Mirror Pond and they kick in the wrong door and they could be at the wrong end of that barrel. Right. And who knows how that person will react. Right. You know, I'm surprised when I heard that it was on Cardinal. I was like, oh my gosh, somebody's really upset they didn't get their hands on them.
Oh, yeah. And they're lucky that there weren't people like fire pitting around the corner. You know, I mean, it's just such a poor decision. But again, I think they're, and I don't think that these kids necessarily even live here, to be quite frank. Like, how many white sedans do you see driving around Dry Creek Ranch? Like, I don't think those cars live here. No. And so they were likely, again, just coming to the neighborhood. But I think the anxiety that people are starting to feel with individuals showing up late at night. And by the way, I don't even think it's all kids. My wife had some solar guy at like 9 o'clock at night trying to sell her solar. And she was like, what are you doing here? Like, what do you want? And so it's not fair to just assume, okay, if your doorbell rings at like 9 or 10, it's just kids. It's like, no, sometimes there are some less scrupulous salespeople kind of wandering around.
Absolutely. I just recently heard of a DoorDash 6-7 months ago, pulled up to drop off the food, and as they're walking back to their car, they grabbed the little yellow signs that say kids at play, picked them up, threw them in their car, and drove off. So they called DoorDash and said, hey, your driver, and they said, oh, we can't do anything unless you can prove it. Well, they watched it. The neighbor watched it happen. Right. So you know, those things happen.
Yeah, how about you ask them about it? Tell the DoorDash driver that we have video camera, and unless they admit, they're going to press charges or something. Yeah. You know, I don't know what you can press charges for kids at play. Anyway, yeah, it's a goofy thing. You were starting to tell me about another instance on 4th of July or 5th of July, whichever it was. Yeah. So after the fireworks, again, I started talking about all this stuff in the neighborhood. But 5th of July, what happened?
5th of July, it was about 2 a.m.
Okay. So all of the fireworks that everybody had been setting off ended about a couple hours prior.
They were done. Okay. They were done for the most part. I was sound asleep. I was awakened with a handful of mortars at about 2 a.m. My wife woke up. Initially, I giggled. And I giggled because I was like, it's one of my drunk neighbors still going at it. You know, whatever.
Good job, Steve. Keep going.
Yeah, right. Jerry. It only happens a couple times a year. So whatever, no big deal. But then when I woke in the morning, I heard that it was somebody that drove into the neighborhood and intentionally did it while saying, go back to California, fuck you, this, that, the other thing. And one of the neighbors, I guess, may have chased him off. And then they took off and that was it. But that, again, I'd be pretty angry if I caught them. If they're coming here to disrupt our community, that's not okay. Right. It's not okay.
Right. And why? Like, okay, we could come up with a bunch of dumb reasons why. Like, okay, we're driving up property values, or you don't like, I don't know, the way we shop. Like, I don't know. Right. Do you just love bad Chinese food? And you're like I don't know what you're mad. Right. I still haven't, and I've spoken with a lot of native Idahoans, and things change. And for the most part, they're like, things change. Communities change. And you cannot like you can not like the politics in California, but I have not spoken to one Californian who's moved here and was like, no, I actually think those are very good politics. Like, we
Right.
need to teach Idahoans how it goes. Like, nobody says that.
Yeah, no, not
It's
at
the
all.
most ridiculous criticism ever. It's like people moved here intentionally, right? Like, wouldn't you be welcoming that? I mean,
Right.
all the people that moved here are not the people that, what's that Highland neighborhood downtown? It's like North Boise. That during Pride Month they're just like littered with flags.
Oh, yeah.
Like that's not. And again, I'm not
Harrison
trying to
Street.
make a comment on it, but if
Yeah.
you're upset at liberals in the state of Idaho, I don't think you should be pointing at the recently arriving Californians as like the driver of liberal policy. Like we aren't those people.
Not us.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's not us. It's not us. If anything, I would say that we're more of an ally to those that want to preserve what Idaho is and Idaho's values and such.
Right.
For sure.
What a complex situation, though, because we move here, we're like, let's keep everything the same.
I
And
know,
The people
I know.
before, they're like, we've been saying that for 10 years.
I know.
Nobody listened.
Yeah.
And then in 10 years from now, we'll be like, go back to California.
Yeah, exactly.
You're going to be driving around on
Right.
the 5th of July,
Right.
yelling at people. Okay, so let's back up. You're Mike the Barber, which is how I've heard of you 1,000 times. I had the pleasure of meeting you a couple weeks ago. And then, again, chatting with you, we're like, you have a lot of different stories, which makes sense.
Yeah.
Because, of course, barbershops. But, like, what drew you to that? Because you had a law enforcement background as well, right?
I did. I had about a 20-year career in law enforcement. I did a variety of assignments. I was a SWAT operator. I was a canine handler. I did narcotics, worked undercover. When I was off duty, women would clinch to their purses when I would walk by, or they put their children on the other side of them as I'd walk by because I wasn't clean cut.
I have a buddy who did the exact same. I obviously don't know exact, but he was narcotics undercover.
Right.
And when I met him doing jujitsu, he actually moved up here recently as well.
Okay.
We're doing jujitsu, clean cut guy, police officer, no big deal. And man, he looked like the dead. Like
Yes.
he grew this. And not done well. It's
Right.
not like Keller's
Right.
nice beard.
No,
it's like
no.
this scraggly, disgusting thing. I was like, oh my God, is he okay? And then you're like, no, he's like full undercover crazy.
Oh yeah. That's dealt with it all the time. I dealt with it at a conference in Reno where me and a couple of my partners, all of us cops, all undercover, we were in front of a bar in Reno. West 2nd was the name of it. And Reno PD showed up and put us all on the ground because we matched the description of whoever. So that was comical. They dusted us off after they were all done. But
Did you guys have your badges on you? If you're undercover, you don't carry that stuff, right?
some of us did. Well, we were at a conference. We were off.
Oh.
The conference was done for the day, and then we went out.
So you were dressed as civilians, just in your normal attire, and you looked so atrocious. You actually
We caught Reno PD's attention, so it was a little Reno 911 ish, but nonetheless, it was funny. It was funny.
Amateur hour, man.
Yeah. Same thing happened in it. Fast forward as a barber, my mom, she was so grateful. She was happy that I had to retire out. I was miserable because I had a canine and I had to give up my canine. But fast forward, I'll kind of skip around a little bit, but I was working in the barbershop. My daughter Paisley, she was doing a play. And my mom drove up to go to the play at the preschool. The preschool happened to be across the street, coincidentally, from the barbershop. As my mom pulls up, she sees a Bearcat SWAT team perimeter set up around the barbershop. And I'm supposed to be going over to the preschool. I can't go over to the preschool because my barbershop is surrounded. One of our customers was wanted. And I didn't know that. Our phone rings, and it's dispatch, and they're like, this is the police department. Just answer yes or no. Is such and such in your barbershop? Yes. Is everybody okay? Yeah, everybody's fine. We're all good. Do you know if he's armed? I don't think he is. I'll check. And so anyways, I got away from their yes or no questions. And at this point, he knew that it was them. He looks out and he knows that they're surrounded.
Right.
But anyways, So my mom was like, gosh, you go and become a barber and you're still dealing with the SWAT team. What is going on? Anyways, that ended peacefully, no problems at all. But, it was just funny for my mom to have to deal with that at that point when I was a barber. So now I was a canine handler. I was on the SWAT team. I would say probably the most fun while working and outside of work was when I was working narcotics, because I kind of got a little bit of a free pass and nobody knew that we were in law enforcement. So it was perfect. So nobody could call and complain to my agency and say, oh, your officers were doing X, Y, and Z. Oh. So we would tend to get a little carried away. And actually I've met some of my neighbors, one of which we actually worked a case together. And we were, counties apart, but we ended up figuring it out.
Wait, so when you say you get carried away, what are you talking about? Like Starsky and Hutch style? Like, what are we talking about here?
Were you in a fraternity?
Oh, was I? No, I was on
Okay.
I was on the rowing team for 4 years.
Okay.
So, I mean, close enough. I mean,
Okay.
you're dealing with a very tight-knit group.
Yeah, that's what it was. It was like a fraternity. Our office doubled as a collections agency, so nobody knew that we were law enforcement. I drove an Acura Integra. I drove a Chevy Silverado. We all had different cars. Nobody knew. So that was great because we were able to do a lot of stuff, good and bad. It reminds me of college is what it reminded me of. Only we didn't get in trouble.
Right.
Our motto was work hard, play harder. And we did. We got a lot of bad people off the street, got a lot of drugs off the street, rolled that into my canine position and had a great time. My canine, he was SWAT trained. I could give him hand signals, second room on the right. He would go. He would clear that room and he'd come back and he'd sit at my side. So anyways, I did that and I ended up getting hurt one night. Where I took a pretty bad fall, messed up my hip. I've had my hip replaced. I've had all kinds of surgeries just to get back to being able to walk again. But I went to my state-appointed doctor, and they're supposed to be non-biased, and he tells me that I can't return as a police officer and that I have to retire out. I thought my world was crumbling down. I started in that career really young, and I didn't really know anything else.
How old were you, if I may ask?
I was...
When you started?
Oh, I was 19 and a half. Wow. And I started in the jail, and then once I was 21, I hit the road, hit patrol.
Man, I started tutoring when I was 22, the week I graduated
Really?
college. Yeah, and then it was when the SAT essentially evaporated. I was like,
yeah.
What do you mean it's over? It's like almost
Right.
20 years, exact same
Right.
kind of thing. Where it's like, wait, it's over? Like, what do you? This is all I've ever done. Like, I have one. At least you
Yeah.
had discernible skills.
Yeah, absolutely.
Transferable. You had references. I literally worked by myself with
Yeah.
with students doing this one very specific thing my entire career, and then it was like poof,
Yeah.
up and gone.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm driving back from San Francisco, and I lived in Sonoma County at the time. So I'm driving northbound, and I'm just crushed. I don't know what, racking my brain. What am I going to do? So every 2 weeks, I would go see, also, Mike the barber. I'd go see Mike, and I'd sit in his chair. He'd give me a beer, shot of whiskey, whatever.
You want a beer, by the way? I got beer down there. And a different guest of mine, where is it? Very kindly brought in this Seven Devils Idaho whiskey. So there you go. You got your beer and your whiskey. Not a
Jeez.
barbershop, but we're going to have a good time. Anyway, keep going.
So I get up to Petaluma, and I go up to Mike's, make sure that he's got a spot for me. He says, yeah, I'll work you in. So I get up there, and I sit in his chair, and he says, what's going on? You're kind of off. I said, well, I just found out that I can't go back to being a cop. I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. And now Mike was such a fun barber. Everybody looked forward to going to Mike's. You either loved him or you hated him.
But you went either way.
But you went either way. Today, his shop now he's got a shop in Scottsdale as well. To this day, people even call in Scottsdale and they go, how many beers has Mike had? Is he between 3 and 9? Yeah, he's between 3 and 9. Okay, he's good to go. He can still cut hair. Because if he's over 9, he can't cut hair.
How long does it take Mike to consume 9? Is he like 6 hours in?
Oh, he'll walk in the morning, tapping the lid of his chilada, starting his day.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
this guy. I have such a weird fantasy with one day being like a cranky old alcoholic. I just don't think I'll ever get there. Like, I just can't. I want to be a guy who comes at home and drinks like scotch or something
Yeah.
and dips my cigar in it. But like, I can't smoke cigars and I'm just not good with alcohol.
Right.
Like,
Yeah,
we all have
cigars-
goals. Not everybody will achieve them.
Right. Well, you wake up in the morning after smoking a shitty cigar, and it's like a cat shit in your mouth.
Oh God!
It's-
Honestly, any cigar, like I want to rip my insides out. I've never enjoyed the aftermath,
Right.
and it's always selling out the next day. Like
Yeah.
I had dinner with a couple dear friends of mine last night, and we're there. I wasn't planning on drinking, but then they're like, "Hey, you want to get a margarita?" We're at the tavern down in Meridian, and there's like both of them are getting margaritas. I'm like, "All right, I'll get a margarita." So
Yeah.
I get this margarita. And then they order another one, just like bring 3. I'm like, oh my God. So then I got another margarita and I'm kind of like sipping on it. And then of course they finish theirs and another round. I'm like, I can't. And I wake up this morning to go to jiu-jitsu at Alliance. And I just want to die. It was like, this is terrible. I didn't sleep well. I'm super hot. Like I feel poisoned. You know?
Oh, you got to go sweat it out though.
Yeah,
That's
right.
good.
Yeah,
That's good.
Yeah. Anyway, so you were saying, so Mike's 3 to 9 beers. You know, he's the guy that you went and saw,
Great
and
guy.
he was on it.
Yeah, he was on it. And he's the type of person that he will say anything. He does not care who's listening. He says what he's thinking, no matter how rude or obscene, whatever, or racist or whatever. You know, he was funny. But like I said, you either loved him or hate him. I sat in his chair and I tell him the story, and he's like, "Well, you want to be a barber?" Now I have a friend that's similar situation, had to get out at about the same time, and he went to work doing executive protection for various high-level executives, Larry Page being one of them at Google, and turns out he's not a good guy. I guess he's on the run right now, but Larry Page is a guy that he was working for, and he was going on jets with him all over the world and having a great time. And I was like, no, I think I might go into executive protection. I don't know if I'm going to do this barbering thing. As a matter of fact, I never even thought about it. Went home that night and I was talking to my wife and she goes, go be a barber. Go do that. You like to talk to people. You know how to talk to people. And that's half the battle of being a barber. The other half is learning how to cut their hair. And that's something that you learn as you go. So I kind of have taken a page out of Mike's playbook, and I like to make it a fun experience. I like to be able to talk to the people who are sitting in my chair. I like to be able to bullshit with them. I'll listen to them. You know, in Petaluma is a small community. It was about 60, 70,000 people, give or take. And working in Petaluma, my wife is 6 generations in Petaluma. I learned so much about her family, good and bad, from that barbershop. And I would use that sometimes when I was at dinner with my mother-in-law or my father-in-law or whatever. Now take that and think about the neighborhood.
Right.
Oh man. I hear
Well, I'm very thankful that you showed up today.
right.
That was great. It's a good indication, or at least reasonable.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I love it. I love it. It's a complete switch. People are happy to see me. People are happy to come back. They're happy to leave. Their wives are happy. The kids, you know, I love it because it's totally different than what I did before. A lot of times I was ruining people's days, or they felt like I was ruining their month or whatever. You know, I don't have that anymore. And I have the ability to shut my schedule down and take off for a couple of days if I want to. I didn't have that before. All my wife knew I missed my daughter's first communion for a SWAT call out. I missed a friend's 40th or 30th birthday party for a SWAT call out. And then countless nights where we were doing search warrant, and you'd do one search warrant and it would roll over to another search warrant and then another one. And they were time sensitive and you'd have to get them one after the other. Otherwise the evidence is gone. So it wasn't uncommon when I was working in narcotics to do 72 hours without sleep, or maybe 10 minutes here or whatever. It was rough. So now that I'm doing this, I'm thrilled. I love it. I absolutely love it. I love the people in the neighborhood. My client base, I started about 4 months ago, and maybe 5. I now have 96 clients in the neighborhood.
That's awesome, man. Good for you.
My goal is to hit about between 200 and 250, and that's kind of a sweet spot. And I think that would be good enough.
Good.
Yeah. That being said, if you're in the neighborhood, I'll always try to work you in.
Sure. Sure.
But
there's something about, as you're discussing this, it's like there's something about having this engagement with people where part of the experience is you just genuinely engage with them. You talk to them, right? Yeah. And not even in a, like you go to a restaurant and we wouldn't, the waiter's always trying to how's your day going? They don't really care. Like they're not listening. They just want to know if you want croutons or not on the salad,
exactly,
right?
Exactly.
But in the tutoring experience I had, I realized that was, you had to engage people meaningfully, like you had to listen, you had to give input, you had to, be real with them, because a 16 or 17-year-old will know when you're just trying to cater to them.
100%.
That's one of the things where it's like you go too hard with a 16. Hi, like we're gonna be, and they're like, oh, just stop. Like it's you can't do that. And to genuinely develop a connection with them, you have to be honest with them.
Yeah,
you have
absolutely.
to. So one of the things I would do right away when people would come in is I'd instantly start swearing when class would start, and it always froze people, but I would tell them later on, it's like 5th, 6th, 7th class, if anybody ever asked, they're like, why do you swear? It's like, well, here's the thing, okay? You know that I'm probably not supposed to be swearing.
Yeah.
Right? And they're like, yeah. We're like, right. And I know that I'm not supposed to be swearing because I'm not like a weirdo.
Right.
They're like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. They're like, right. So we both know I'm handing you ammunition. Like, if you don't want to be here, all you have to do is go home and you'll have everything you need to not ever come back.
Yes.
Right? You'll be able to tell your parents. Boom. So I offer vulnerability to you instantaneously.
Yeah.
And you recognize that. And then you realize that I'm going to put myself out there. You can put yourself out there. I'm not going to tell anything to anyone. And it's not like one of those privacy things where it's like if somebody is like, hey, I know my name's Steve, but call me Jenny from here on out.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to call the parents. But,
right.
You just have to develop a genuine rapport with them.
Yeah.
And again, it's so crucial to the actual experience because the more they believe and feel you're connected with them and on their team, the harder they're going to try. So it's inherent in a good tutor and a good teacher that they have to be connected.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it sounds similar to yours. If you want a client to leave having had a good experience, you have to genuinely connect with them.
Yeah. Absolutely. So it's funny that you bring that up because that I see is probably one of the hardest things for me now. Every person that sits in my chair, I consider them a friend. We all live in the same neighborhood. And I can't go to 10 different houses for dinner on the same night. Right. You know what I mean? Right. So that is going to be hard for me to try to juggle friendships because, when I hit 200 clients from the neighborhood or 250, I consider them all my friends.
Right.
I did have a family come up over the 4th from Petaluma, and he hopped in the golf cart with me when he first got here. He's like, let's check out the neighborhood. So we did. And when we got back to the house, he was like, Mike, he goes, everybody. He goes, all those kids, all the boys are like, hey, Barber Mike, what's going on? What's up, Mike? He's like, that is so cool. I said, it is, but it's hard to maintain it because I'm starting to get everybody's name. I usually say it takes 3 times.
Right.
You sit in my chair 3 times. I'm going to remember your name. I'm going to remember your haircut. We're all good.
Right.
And you won't have to, you can sit in my chair. I'll start cutting your hair. You don't even have to tell me what you want. I already know. You know what I mean? A lot of people like that. But anyway, so this family, when they were up from Petaluma, he was just blown away at how everybody, hey, Mike, hey, Barber Mike, he couldn't believe that I'd only been here for 6 months. He's like, it feels like you've been here for years. And then I've had a couple guys, they're like, oh, you're going to be the mayor of this neighborhood.
The mayor.
I don't want to be mayor. I don't like politicians.
Right. Yeah, but I think that's a really that's an astute point, and it's a difficult thing to balance. When with the problem I ran into with a lot of my students is I would get to know these kids, right? Like I might be working with them for a year. We're doing the SAT, and then maybe we did the ACT, and then I helped them with this. One guy in particular, this guy Hugh, he just called me today. He's going to Yale. I helped him get in. It was like this 1.5-year process,
Right?
And for those students, by and large, I might have worked with, I don't know, 300 students in a year. And they want me to come to their grad party.
Yeah.
They want to, keep up with it. It's kind of, the other problem is kind of like, all right, look, how many 18-year-olds do I really want to be chatting with, right? And forget it. If you're a girl, there's no chance we're ever texting to say hi.
Yeah, right.
Right. It's
right.
At least some of the
right.
at least some of the athlete guys would be like, hey man, how's Yale going? Or how's wherever? How's lacrosse? You can connect with them.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Some of my female students got really mad because one it was 2019. I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to start a youth group, right?
Okay.
Because I had all these students that really enjoyed coming to class. My classroom was awesome. I had projector screens and video games and all kinds of stuff.
Right.
And the girls are like, awesome, when are we coming? I'm like, oh, you're never coming, right? Because the last thing you will ever tell your parents is, I'm going to hang out with the SAT tutor, Matt.
Yeah,
if
totally.
guys do it, then their mom's like, oh, can I make cookies? That's great. Awesome. Go, hang out and play video games.
Yeah.
But, that's just the way it is. You can't,
Totally.
can't connect with this girl's like, so can we catch up in a couple months? I'm like, no, you're 16. I'm
Right.
never talking to you again.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. It's really something, the interaction with people. Yeah. I love it. I love when they look in the mirror when I'm done, especially the kids, and they smile and they're all about it. There's a handful of kids, as soon as they get out of the chair, they go and look in the mirror and they're looking at themselves, I had one the other day, my housekeeper's son, our housekeeper's son. He goes, "You're a barber?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm a barber." And he goes, could you cut my hair this style? It's like, yeah, all day long. He goes, I've never had a white barber before. And I go, well, I said, give me a shot. And I said, I'll be your barber. And so his family came to clean the house, mom, dad, and their son. And I cut his hair while mom and dad started on the house.
By the way, mom, dad, and her son, their son.
Yes.
I have heard incredible things about this cleaning crew,
Yes.
and it's getting spread around, and there's some interesting dynamics with other cleaning companies involved. But I've heard they're amazing.
They're amazing, and they're very reasonable too.
Right.
I was shocked at how reasonable they were.
They also have a very incredible story.
They have a great story.
Yeah.
I did a taco truck on Rainy a couple of weeks ago now. It was the night before the 4th of July.
Yeah, right.
And I met the owner of that taco truck through my housekeeper. I gave her our old dining room table. One of her friends came to pick it up, and he was I want to say he's probably about 65, 70, white guy, white hair. And he had a sticker on his truck, and it said, guac and roll. And I said, what is that? He goes, oh, it's my taco truck. So I looked at Sandra, and I, kind of like her son did to me, I said, he's got the taco truck? And she starts laughing, and she goes, Mike, they're the best in the Treasure Valley. And she was not lying. They did not disappoint. They were very good.
Yeah, I remember I was cruising by. We had done dinner earlier.
Right.
So I rode by that on my scooter with my son 4 times. We were going down, just going through the neighborhood. But it was swamped, man.
It was
everybody
swamped. He had a line from start to finish.
Good.
And actually sold out. And he told me before he started, I said, I'm not sure what you're going to get. I said, I'm pretty sure you'll do well.
Right.
And then he goes, I'm not going to run out of any food because I'm ready for the 4th of July down in Cuna. I said, okay. Well, he ran out of 2 meats just from our neighborhood, so he didn't even get to take that down there with him. So,
sorry, Cuna.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So anyways, our housekeeper's son, I cut his hair, and he goes, all right. He goes, I'm going to go in and help my parents finish the house. He goes, I'll look at it when I'm in the house. I was like, oh, okay, no problem. So they're all done. He comes out to the barber shop. He goes, hey. I go, yeah. He goes, you're my new barber. So that was pretty cool. That was a cool experience. And then also had our pest control guy. I'd say he's probably about 25 to 30. You can tell he's a ladies' man. He's that age. He's great shape, and He does a mullet hawk. And
Oh my God, like Garrett?
yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So he sees the barber shop when he's spraying one day, and he goes, "You're a barber?" And I go, "Yeah." He goes, "How long you been a barber?" So I said, "Oh, about 4.5 years." He goes, "Okay." He goes, "Could you do this?" And I was just like the other kid. I go, "Yeah." I said, "All day long, man. Piece of cake." And he goes, "Okay, okay." He goes, "I tell you what." He goes, "I'm going to Vegas this summer." He goes, "I'm going to have you cut my hair before I go." I said, "All right, no problem." Wow, that's brave is what I'm thinking. So he comes and he sits in my chair. I cut his hair. I said, "All right, can you take this to Vegas?" He goes, "Oh, I'm not going to Vegas yet." He goes, "I wanted to see if you could do the Vegas cut before I got it." So he just returned last week, and I think he's coming back from Vegas tomorrow. And he came back for his second haircut with me for his Vegas cut.
Nice. Gotta get it touched up.
Yeah, and he went on to his Facebook Live, and he's got a bunch of followers. Went onto his Facebook Live with his haircut. Now I've got a handful of pest control guys from out of the neighborhood that come and get their haircut here. Which brings me to, I'm trying to keep it just local to our neighborhood. So I've got a couple people that are from out of the neighborhood, but they're connected in one way or another. Like John, when he comes in, this pest control guy, he'll come and get his haircut in between services. So it works out.
You're not going to be able to do that, though. I mean, Dry Creek Ranch, as a community, is supposed to have, like 1,300 homes or something?
Right.
Like, you're not going to be able to do this.
Right.
Like, it's over, son.
I know. I'm already trying to figure out how I'll juggle it. Right now, Tuesdays fill up first. That's like my busiest day because I'm typically off on Sundays and Mondays.
Gotcha.
Barbershop days off. Just kind of kept that. And I'll take an occasional Saturday off. So if I take a Saturday off and then I have Sunday and Monday off, Tuesday fills up really quick. And then as you go on in the week, it's a little bit easier to get an appointment on like Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays. Those are generally pretty open. And my booking system is really easy once you get into it. I've heard complaints from people that I'm hard to find. And to be honest, that's kind of by design because I needed the public to be able to book with me without being public, if you will.
Sure.
So, for example, like on my booking system, I'm on an app called Booksy. It's Booksy. And when people log on, they'll see, as they're scrolling, if they enter the zip code, so they want to look for whatever, they'll see the Dry Creek Ranch entrance. I don't put my address. My address is not on there. You have my phone number. But what happens is when somebody makes an appointment online, I get notified right away. I immediately contact them, give them my address, and then we go from there.
Man, your marketing strategy is identical to the way I did. I had all these shirts and like hats and stuff that said Matt Todd University. And if you Google Matt Todd University and go to matttodduniversity.com, it's just a goat head and a phone number. And it says, if you know, you know. And so people didn't, they were like, I don't even know what this is. And it's like, so they call and parents would try to be finding out what the other kids are wearing. And then kids are trying to figure it out. And my students, which I thought was awesome, would always just be like, well, if you know, you know. Like, so they wouldn't even tell people what it was, which I thought was just hilarious. Like I didn't care at all.
Right.
But yeah, you wanted, I didn't want to be openly advertising for just like random people coming in. I always wanted that interpersonal connection. But if Johnny went home and told his friend Steve, like, oh, Steve, this is the best SAT tutor, there had to be a way for Steve to find me if he knew what he was looking for.
Yes.
Like if he knew that Matt Todd University was the SAT prep, he would get my number right away and call me.
Exactly.
But if they didn't know what it was, it's like, well, you don't know what it is, so there's no reason to call.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's pretty cool to see these. I brought these for you, by the way. Got you a hat and a T-shirt.
Oh,
so
yeah, man.
Garage of Groom is also, it's on the app. So if you miss the Dry Creek Ranch, you'll see this logo. And it's pretty cool to see my logo walking around the neighborhood, seeing on some of the kids and,
Do you
a
ever
lot of my
get
customers and
worried
stuff.
about being like responsible for the way somebody looks? I mean, it's horrifying just me dealing with me. And like, this is really hard for me. Like, I don't have any kind of facial hair. I'm like, my head is buzzed. If you've seen any of the previous podcasts, I look like hell, right? Like, it's so hard for me to be responsible just for one person.
Right.
The idea of, like people parting with their hard-earned money and be like, all right, I'm going to do some shit here. Like,
yes.
Is that like, do you get worried about that?
I do. I worry about it because I am my own worst critic. And in a city like Petaluma, albeit small, I could usually cut their hair and not see them again until they return for their next haircut 2, 3, 4 weeks later, whatever.
Sure.
And the difference between a good haircut and a bad haircut is 2 weeks because it's going to grow out. And yeah, I've made mistakes and I go, hey man, it'll be better in 2 weeks. That's why I'm not a tattoo artist, I'll make comments like that. However, being in the neighborhood, I'm not going to say that I take more pride or take more time or focus more, but I will say that I am more aware of the fact that I'm very likely to see you and you and you later on today,
right,
at the pool or whatever. So I want to make sure that everybody that walks out of my barbershop after I'm done cutting their hair is on point. And it's exactly the way that they want it. The first time, it's usually hard to nail somebody's haircut the first time. Because it takes a while. You learn their cowlicks.
Yeah, right.
I've got a handful of guys now that are every 10 days or even every week and a bunch every other week. All of those guys, I know their cowlicks. I know how their hair grows. I know
the lumps in their head.
Everything, all that. But since we're in the neighborhood and all my customers are in the neighborhood, it's always in the back of my head. I'll see, one of my customers walking their dog and I go, oh man, I missed that spot. They wouldn't notice it, but I do, Right. So I try to make sure that there's none of that. I really do try. And I can do almost any style of haircut. I can do, the more urban styles. We don't get a lot of those here. Maybe the younger kids. Still working on trying to get Sam and Heather's son, one of them. I got Jake. Jake's great. But mini Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah,
I could do that all day long.
Yeah. I want to see some kids walking around with like American flags on the side of their head. Those look so sharp.
So I was going to do it this year. I was going to do like a mullet, for the 4th of July. And I had a mullet that I wanted to do on one of the kids who I cut, and mom shut it down. Dad was all about it, and it was going to be, I wanted to do the stars and stripes on the side of their head, and just have, some glorious mullet.
What about like, look, Mom, let it last a week and just bring him back and no charge. I'll chop it off, but just give him a week of photos.
So that's exactly it. Cause I can do a mullet and I can set it up where it's a completely legitimate mullet, but in 5 minutes I can make it look like a completely normal haircut and on your way. And that was actually my plan was, okay, if the parents don't want them to do it, they let them do it. They can come back on the 5th and I can just make them look normal again.
Clean it up.
Odds are they'll love it though.
What is it that's so distinctly American about a mullet?
I don't know.
Right? Like there's, tell me about a distinctly Italian haircut. Right? Or
well,
like tell me what the English haircut is. But like you slap a mullet on, nobody says that's Canadian.
No.
They're like, that's a dude who knows how to eat some crawdads or something.
Absolutely. It's a fun haircut. There's so many variations of it now, from the mullet hawk to the mullet hawk is actually supposed to be short on top, and gradually getting longer. And it can look like a mohawk, or it could just be the sides shaved or whatever. But I can even deal with long hair. I could do women's hair. I don't want to.
Okay, but here's the thing. I've told my wife this because, again, let me be clear. I am bad at this, right?
Sure.
And I don't classically enjoy just messing with this. I wish it just kind of stayed the way it was and we just call it a day. And I'm not even saying stay great, just stay average, right? And I'm good to go. But my wife, has always, as women do, she's like, well, let me help you with this problem that you have. She's like, well, you could go to this or you this. It's like, listen, a female haircut is not the same experience. It was like you could go to a beauty salon and there's like music playing and everything smells, I mean, it's kind of good. I don't know. It's like a potpourri, right? Yeah. And you sit down and because I've gone with my wife to hang out with her. I even tried once. I was like, well, maybe I should give it a shot. Anyway, it's like all nice. But when they get their physical haircut, it's this, let me clip off the ends, let me just do that. And they have to do some highlight stuff. Yeah. Fine. But they have never, like my wife will never in her entire life experience the horror of clippers clipping the top skin on her ear as they go around. Like she's never, ever going to have to go home immediately and shower and change all of her clothes because there are these tiny half-centimeter hairs poking in the seam on her shoulder. Like she will never, ever have to worry about extra Q-tips in the ears to get the hair follicles out. That's all stuff, guys. It's like the hair's falling in my face. Yeah, exactly. And she's of course there in the salon like, oh, it's beautiful. It's like nothing is a face. She's like, whatever. Like it's a completely different thing.
Totally different. I'll slap a little powder on you, dust you off, get you with the hairdryer, send you on your way. No, I generally, I'll style everybody up if they want it before they leave. Make them feel fresh.
Yeah,
you want to make them look good. A lot of times, guys and I don't take offense to it. Guys just want their hair cut.
Right.
That's
they
it.
Want to get out.
Nothing special. I cut their hair and they throw their hat on and out the door.
Right.
Some people give me a hard time. Barbershops shouldn't be selling hats. You should show off.
Just shut
whatever.
up. It's an awesome hat. Like it's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you do like hot towel or straight edge razors and stuff?
I have a towel steamer. Yes. I've got the whole thing. I'm fully set up. And I love doing shaves. Love doing shaves.
I should start coming to you like once a week. Just treat myself.
Man.
This is the thing. I feel really bad about spending time and energy, on my looks. I'm like, that's just vanity. Like people should like you if you look like hell. Not the case, by the way. They don't. But it was like, and spending time and energy on like having this enjoyable thing. But it's awesome.
So that's what it is. So one of the guys, and he'll probably be listening to this, who I've gotten to know, I shave his face and his head. And I know that he looks forward to it because it's a full treatment. I give the face massage. Face massage is part of shaving. Right. Really, you really got to loosen up those hair follicles and make it a little bit easier. So it's a comfortable experience when they're laying back in the chair. So much so that they could fall asleep, which I don't recommend. I had a guy fall asleep on me once. It was the first time I was shaving his face. He was actually visiting from Hawaii in Petaluma, and he fell asleep in the chair while I was shaving him. He had a dream there was a fly on his chin.
Oh, God.
It was my razor blade. He swatted it so hard, so quick, and my razor was embedded in his chin. So he wakes up and he goes, "What happened?" I said, "Well, you slapped my razor blade into your chin." He goes, "Man," I thought it was a fly. He goes, "I was having a dream." He was cool about it. He knew it was his fault, whatever. But it's that relaxing of an experience where you could fall asleep. The towels are hot, and then, the creams that I use for the face and stuff like that. It's a whole process, and it is so relaxing. It's not even about making yourself look better. It's a great feeling when you're done. It really is. And I take pride in using the straight edge. I really like doing that. As a matter of fact, in my old barber shop, I was the only one that would do the straight edge and do a full face shave, at least without cutting people.
Right.
But I take great pride in that, and it's a cool experience. I highly recommend it.
I heard something years back that the straight edge had been like outlawed or something in California because of risk of getting cut or something. Was that just urban legend?
Sanitation purposes, which doesn't make sense to me because you're using steel, a non-porous
that you can clean.
Clean.
Like Juanita spoons and knives and forks at restaurants. I mean, you clean these things.
Exactly. It's so easy. That's exactly it. And that's what I said that. I was like, but we can go to a restaurant and use the same fork that the person before me, you know what I mean?
Okay, so it is in fact illegal in California?
It is illegal in California because sanitation.
Oh,
Which,
Idaho doesn't have the same. Well, okay.
No. However, I do use I use disposable razor blades. The ones that I use in particular, they're about, well, they're exactly 8 times the cost of the regular disposables that most barbers use. These things it is like fine Japanese steel, and you don't even feel it going through your hairs. They're so sharp.
Okay, but listen to this. So about 4 Christmases ago, the wife gets me, what was it? It was called the Viking razor. Okay. For Christmas. And I was unaware that I needed a new razor set, but she got it for me. I'm like, well, thank you, hon. Like,
sure.
This will be great. Like, don't know if I've ever complained about, the stupid Bic or Gillette or whatever, but like, here we go, right?
Right.
So I get it, and it's an actual razor blade, right? So double-sided razor blade.
Yep.
And I start shaving with it. I cut the shit out of my face. Now, mind you, I am going so slow. I'm like, and like, cut. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to die. So, and I should have known right away because let's face it, Vikings were not known for clean shavenness. Like who's marketing this as like the Viking razor? They tied braids on their facial hair. Like this is not it. Anyway, and we had to return it. I was like, this is insane. This is the sharpest thing ever. So is that more a function of, was I like not conditioning my skin, or was the blade just literally too sharp, or what do you think that could have been?
Probably not conditioning your skin, and you're probably used to whatever razor you were using previously.
Oh yeah, whatever comes in the package and you clip it on the thing.
Exactly. So you didn't have the right angle. You didn't have the right angle, and that's so important. If you don't have the right angle and it's extremely sharp, you're gonna get in there. You're gonna get cut.
Yeah, like I was literally just going down my face, and because I thought for a second, I'm like, okay, Matt, maybe you're just used to some dummy razor. You got to really, this was a gift. Like, try to just calm it down here. So again, the next day and the day after, I was like going super slow, and it was just cutting my skin.
Yeah. That's what it was. You're not used to the angle, because your angle, that blade needs to touch your skin the same way, at the same angle that the blades in your disposable razors touch your skin.
But those swivel and they're pre-angled. Okay.
Exactly.
I'm the idiot.
So,
well, they should have attached a YouTube video or something. I don't know what to say.
Right. But with when I do these straight edge shaves, I actually, not only do I go with the grain, I try to go against the grain. And that I wasn't allowed to do in California. I did it anyways. I would ask the guys before I would do it, and most of them would want it. Basically,
so you go up instead of going down.
I'll go down, and then I'll go up. I'll go to the sides. I'll go every which way until that whole face or head is
just right,
smooth. Yeah, and it's a process. If I'm doing a full face shave, you're probably looking at about 45 minutes to an hour in my chair.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dude, you get 45 seconds at my house. If you're my face, you are like, I do use the brush. I don't like putting stuff on my hands for whatever reason. So I really enjoy, brushing on the stuff. But then I'm going like, boom. Do you have, is there a technique or is it a blade? I used to go up when I was like in college, but then I started getting a lot of ingrown hairs. Is that a function of poor blades or different gels, or what is that?
It's because you're getting so close. And if you're pulling the skin, it can actually get underneath the skin and cause that ingrown hair. Oh. Or you can clean it out. For me, what I do is I prep the face. I have a cream that I put on that cleans the face, because you don't want the dirt in those. Man,
this really pores. You're the whole 45-minute massage the face, prep it. I'm dying to try this.
And I've got the music playing. I've got OAN, One America News Network. That's usually on silent, but it's on. I've got Ronald Reagan, Abraham Lincoln, and Donald Trump getting their hair cut in a barber shop. I've got that picture hanging on the wall. My mom gave that to me, and thought it would be appropriate for my shop. It was. It's a
good setting. It sounds like
it's a great setting. And I've got my cooler. It's set at 36 degrees. The beers, the high noons, whatever you want. They're cold. They're yours. It's a blast. It's a fully functional barber shop.
Right. The Provision, right next to Coffee and Supply, there's Provisions Barbering, right?
Uh-huh.
So my wife made 2 appointments for me and my son to go in there.
Sure.
And I feel like they were trying to accomplish what you effectively have done. But it was like she made this appointment 9 a.m. or 9:30 on like a Saturday. And I go in, like, would you like a beer? Like, it's 9:30. Like, do you have coffee? Do you have coffee, by the way?
Yeah. I can get you coffee.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate
I
you.
can get you coffee.
We just give me a can. Like, give me like the canned coffee from the trade show.
Right.
Yeah, but I was like, I'm here with my son. I can't start drinking at 9:30 in the morning. Like, this is going to be a really long day. And like, yeah, but it's. I really like the idea of just making it a far more comfortable experience.
It totally is. I don't ever offer anybody, hey, do you want a beer? It's there, and most of the guys know. Just open it and it's theirs.
Right.
And there are some that walk in at 9 in the morning,
which is totally fine. Like, listen to me. I am not here to judge. And if you are a golfer, you are used to the 9 a.m. beverage. Like,
absolutely.
And if it's a Saturday and people are like, hey, well, this is my Saturday, that's totally fine. But for me, it's very difficult to function with 3 boys at home.
I get it.
I get it. Right before this, talk about crazy kids. Right before this, it's like 4 o'clock. We're meeting at 5. So I'm like, starting to get some things ready.
Yeah.
And my one of my sons comes home. He had to go to like an orthodontist appointment or something. And then my wife took him to Bricknology, the Lego store.
Yes.
Okay. So he gets a Spider-Man like hand Lego thing. Okay. He was like, okay, cool, whatever.
Yeah.
But it comes with a can of silly string. Right. So before I know what's happening, he runs through that. He's like, I'm home. Runs straight to the backyard and just like he just won some, NASCAR event.
Right.
Now, mind you, it's 4 o'clock. So our patio has got to be like 150 degrees. The second the silly string touches it, it just fuses with the pavers, right? And I literally am like, oh my God, what is he doing? And he's just... And my wife doesn't. Oh my God! So we spent. It was like 30 to 40 minutes, one by one, picking out on our hands and knees in the bag. I try to hose it off real fast, but it's already. It was a train wreck, man.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's just too much. And now you're talking about like a 45-minute shave. I'm there tomorrow. Like I'm.
It is very relaxing. If I trusted somebody with the razor blade, like I trust myself with it, I would love to have it done, but. I have not. So, I haven't found a barber yet. I have not found a barber yet.
I was going to say you're looking sharp, but
I can deal with my face.
Yeah, how do you do with your hair?
My hair, I don't. I mean, I can clean up, my hair, but I'm not real confident in the mirror. I'm left-handed, and when I have to work in a mirror, it's even worse. So, I avoid that. But I've been to 4, 5. Barbershops now, and I still haven't found that spot. We'll see. I'll find them. Is it? I've
often wondered this about masseuses, and now you. When you're doing something that like face massage and shave and everything. And
that's
really,
where it ends, by the way.
I believe you. That's not my question, but thank you for answering that one.
Which remind me of that.
Yeah, right.
And we'll get back to it.
I've often wondered, like, your whole goal is to make this person comfortable. Like, is that enjoyable for you beyond? Is it something different for you too? Because it's like, I imagine it would kind of be like a performer, right? Somebody who goes out and does, it could be comedy or whatever, but you're getting into it with the person, and the more it's like when you're cooking for somebody, it's like the more they enjoy it, the happier you are. Like, do you have that kind of reciprocal relationship?
100%. Like like I was saying earlier, when I see the kids look in the mirror, the guys look in the mirror, even the grown men, and they go, "Wow, this looks great." I love that because I can tell they're being genuine.
Sure.
And I can see it too. Great haircut.
Sure.
So yeah, totally. It's sense of pride. Initially, at least for me, it was very foreign for me to be giving a guy a massage.
Right.
I mean, on its face, for me, it was like, this is weird. Usually I'm either wrestling with them, putting the handcuffs on, or whatever, So that was weird. However, now that I look at it, getting a full face shave, the old school, old-fashioned way, it's a very manly experience. It really is. And I feel like it's fit for a male barber to do that for his client. And after having it done myself, Mike only had 3 beers at the time he did it. It's an awesome experience. It really is. And so I know what it's like to have it done correctly. And though he was a drinker, he was very detailed about how to do these things. So yeah, I take great pride in it.
That's I have to imagine, like, again, this isn't really it, but one of the biggest things that I take a lot of pride in recently is my lawns, right?
Yes.
And when I was living back in California, just like the lawn come and go, and just I was doing a lot of other things, you know, like working, and now that I have more time, it's one of the things. I got this dandelion popper, which I didn't even know was a thing, but it's like this little 2-prong thing, and it has a curved piece of steel on it, so you jab the root and then you rock it onto the curved piece of pops right out.
Yeah, you had it in your hand the other day when I saw you. Yes.
And now I am so detailed, and I've actually thought about, like, you know, this is so good that I wouldn't mind helping other people.
Right. Absolutely.
Look, do you guys need help with your crabgrass? So crabgrass is like the bane of my existence. And like, if you don't want to spray chemicals, you really have to mechanically remove it.
Right.
And if you don't have this specialty tool and then, like, get down on the ground, it's such a pain.
It is.
Now I'm like, I need to help the people. Like, maybe I could be like the grass dude. I should be the grass barber. Like, you got a grass. And like, I will come through and I will treat it like my own.
Yeah.
Because if you want to pull weeds and some gravel, that's one thing. But if you're going into the grass to remove things, you can't be going, like, hacking at everything.
No.
I need to be the grass barber, Mike. That's really it. I'll make hats like that, but they'll be green.
Yeah, exactly.
It'll be great.
Right.
Yeah, but I have an appreciation for that when you're really getting into something and you want it to look good, and you like this sense of pride and enjoyment and making sure that other people really enjoy it. I get that way whenever I cook for my boys, because I've been doing a lot of different recipes.
Right.
My oldest is now 11 and his taste buds are changing.
Yeah.
He used to only like pancakes and simple things, but now he's really into steak, and I've started doing food budget with 3 boys, it's a lot. So I've started doing a lot more potato meals, but doing meats and then gravies on top of them. So it would be like a tri-tip, and then making a gravy after that with the drippings, and then putting it on these potatoes, like thin slice, and the whole.
Absolutely.
And they literally eat it up. They're like, this is amazing. It's like, yes, I did it. I nailed it.
Exactly.
Like, the boys are loving it.
Exactly. Same thing. Same thing. Exactly. No, it's great. It's great. I absolutely love it. You know, we were talking about, you mentioned massage.
Yeah.
So one of the stories that, being a barber, I like to be able to tell my stories when I was in law enforcement, because I can no longer get in trouble for them. Back then, if I talked about them, I could get in trouble for them.
Oh, right. Now you're good to go.
Now I'm good to go. I can say whatever I want.
Dude, let her rip. I got nothing but time.
And it would usually come up when I was shaving a guy, massaging their face or whatever.
Yeah, they can't talk. You don't ask questions, do you? Because I hate the barber classically and the dentist. I'm just like, shut up. And just like, got the flossing. She's like, you do anything fun this weekend? I'm like, yeah. It's just like, I'm sorry, please don't talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like your shoes. Where'd you get those? Please don't talk.
Yes.
It's like, shut up.
I know.
Why are you telling me this?
I don't do that.
Okay,
I don't
cool.
do that. Yeah, I'm not shaving your upper lip and then asking you a question right before I do it.
So it's kind of on you then to fill the experience, right? Fill the space.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I would. People, it's very common after having a career in law enforcement, even in law enforcement, I would go to parties, or I'd go places, dinner with different people, and they'd be like, "Oh, tell me what's going on. What'd you do today? Or what'd you deal with at work today? Or what happened? Or what's the most whatever you dealt with?" So I would throw everybody for a loop, and I would always, when people would ask me that, they're not expecting where I'm going. So I was about 2 years on as a cop, and one of my sergeants, he comes to me and he goes, "Hey Mike, I have an overtime gig for you." I was like, "Okay, what is it?" He goes, "Well, we're doing massage parlor enforcement." And I'm like, massage parlor enforcement? All I know is that these massage parlors are, they're whorehouses, really, is what they are.
In Petaluma?
This is in San Rafael. I worked in the city of San Rafael. So I was like, yeah, on overtime, I get to go into these massage parlors. I get to go get a massage on overtime. Yeah, I'll go do it. No problem. He says, all right. Tells me when to go in.
Wait, that's actually what he wanted you to do. He's like, you go pretend you're a John, go in, ask for massage, and if they proposition you, then you bust. If you come up with an agreement, then they bust. Because you can't, I assume you can't actually go through with the whole thing. But you have to get them to agree to terms, right? That's the idea. Yeah. Okay, stop. Just tell me. So I'm going to shut up.
So you're absolutely on track. 100%. So
you can't do the cocaine. They just have to agree to sell it to you.
Yeah.
Maybe you tried a little bit, just a little.
Yeah. No.
Oh my God.
No. So, I show up for my first day of massage parlor enforcement, whatever you want to call it. 2 years on, I don't know what to really expect. I just know that these girls, it's prostitution is what it is. So
wait, 2 years on as in...
As a police officer at this point.
So you're like in your 20s.
Boot. Oh yeah, I'm like 21, 22.
This is so great.
So, and it just takes a stiff breeze at that age, okay? So, I go in to the massage parlor.
Are you married by this point?
No.
Okay.
So
I'm just setting the stage.
I go into the massage parlor. Oh, before I go in, he says, all right, Mike, he goes, the last time we did this was about 1.5 years ago. He goes, and the DA no-filed all of our cases. They wouldn't file on them. We need an overt act that's going to show they're going to complete the act. And I was like, okay, well, great. What is that? And he goes, they need to come in to the room after you guys negotiate with a condom, and she needs to actually be in the process of starting to put it on. And I was like, and then what do I do? And he goes, well, then you're going to give the bus signal, and we're going to come in and we're going to deal with everybody. And I was like, so I'm going to be laying on the bed, massage table, naked.
Totally naked.
And he's like, yeah.
Ready to receive said rubber that is out of the casing.
Yes.
And...
Yes. And my first, and so at the time there was the other officer that came out with us, with the sergeant and us. She was incredibly attractive.
No.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. I had a crush on her.
So this sergeant, who's a female, is going to be busting into the room where you are.
So the sergeant is the male, and then there's another officer,
the
same
other
rank
officer,
as me.
Fine, whatever.
Female,
there's going to be another coworker of yours that will be busting into the room. That's an attractive female while you are butt naked in the middle of Oh my God.
Yes.
And you stayed on this job for 20 years. I can't wait to hear how the story goes. Keep going. Keep going. I love this.
So I'm laying on the table, and she's doing everything, and then she has me turn over, removes the towel, starts doing things to get you aroused, and I'm like, I'm just thinking to myself, I cannot believe I'm getting paid overtime for this. I'm getting paid overtime for this. This is nuts. And
how was the initial massage? Like the actual...
Oh, they're terrible.
Oh.
They're terrible.
Didn't like put her elbow in there. And
every once in a while,
like somebody would get a muscle knot just right. But
maybe,
besides that,
maybe if
you're
I'm
a
lucky,
piece of meat.
This
is like getting mani pedis is the same thing. I've only got one once. I'm like, I am literally just livestock to this woman.
100%.
She doesn't care.
100%.
They're like eating lunch and rubbing my foot. I'm like, what is going on?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Keep going.
Yeah, and they all say the same thing too. Oh, you strung like bull. They all say that, and I don't know what it is. It's like
and maybe
they all went to the same school,
but
they all went to the same school. Anyway, so this first time I'm in there, and we negotiate. She leaves the room just like my sergeant said she would do, and she comes back into the room. She closes the door, and I don't see the condom. I'm like, okay, when am I going to give a bus signal? I don't see the condom. She lowers her head.
In her mouth.
It was in her mouth.
It was in her mouth.
And I'm like, what do I do? So, anyways, I give the bus signal. That's it. I was like, I can't get in trouble. I don't want to
I'm like, I can't spend another, 120 seconds like this. I can't. No. I'm giving the bus signal.
No, I give the bus signal. But she doesn't know that I'm giving the bus signal. So,
oh my God.
She continues. And I'm like, oh, no, we gotta go. I gotta go.
No, I'm uncomfortable with this.
And then All of a sudden, you hear the doors come in, police department, and she jumps up and she runs out. I jump off the table. I've got a condom half on me.
Oh,
And my
my
partner, who
God.
I've got a crush in, walks in the door. And she just looks at me and just starts laughing. Just starts laughing and walks out. And I was like...
I don't know how much they paid you overtime. It wasn't enough. It was not enough.
No. I have so many of those stories because I did that for about 6 months. God,
how gross.
Oh, man.
What a job, too. Like, think about it, though. Initially, if I were a younger man, I'd be like, okay, that's really funny. And then, it's just so bad on so many levels.
So many different variances. There was another time where they're like, we don't want to go in and we don't want to bust them. We want to get a search warrant for basically pimping and trafficking.
Right.
So the objective was for him to call me when I gave the bust signal and me to have to get up and get my phone because it's ringing audibly.
Right. Wait, how do you give the bus signal? What was it? Did you have something like in your hand?
No, it was. I would just say, "Jim's gonna love this. Jim's gonna love this."
There's a mic.
There's a mic. Yeah.
Oh,
So
gotcha.
when I would take off all my clothes, I'd fold them up and I'd make sure that it looked like a cell phone,
Gotcha.
and that was my recording device. That
Gotcha.
would be on top.
Gotcha.
They wouldn't even notice that. So yeah, it was an audible bus signal that I would just say.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
What it's a horrible situation for everyone involved.
It was nuts. It was nuts. I couldn't believe it, but I would say that I was surprised a lot throughout my career. I had a lot of fun, but I'm having a great time now.
Yeah.
I'm having a great time now. I love doing this. Love what I'm doing. I love my customers. I've got the best customers.
Yeah, you don't have
Everybody's
to give
great.
any bus signals or anything. You just above board face massage and you call it a day.
Exactly.
Could I ask you something that's a really this is not a loaded question. I genuinely want to hear your opinion on this.
Yeah.
So you worked in narcotics.
Yes.
Okay. I have for a long time, almost my entire adult life, I was like, you know what? I don't think drugs should be legal. I don't think that's a good idea.
Sure.
I'm not a big, again, I can't even handle alcohol, right? Somebody gave this to me, a friend gave it to me like a month or two ago. I haven't even opened it, right? It's just not my jam. And I've never tried like cocaine or any real drugs, right?
Yeah, neither have I.
And I'm like, that's just not, it's not a good, like I'm making the gross assumption as somebody who's never used them that it's not a good thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Especially because I did know police officers that were dealing in narcotics and dealing, a very good friend of mine, his sister was dealing in the narcotic world, and it was nasty. She's in law enforcement. She's like, this is a really dark thing.
Yeah.
And then I did hear, which changed my opinion at least a little bit. It's like, well, the reason there is such a great crime syndicate around it is because it's illegal. They're like, what do you like? What's the crime around Sky Vodka? It's like, well, I mean, okay, yeah. He's like, because look, if Grey Goose and Sky Vodka get into a fight, they don't solve it in the streets. They get their attorneys and they use the force of the legal system, and that's kind of how they do it. Now, that's not saying there aren't, backwards deals going on, whatever it is, but. The argument went, hey, look, if you legalized everything, if alcohol never became illegal during Prohibition, Al Capone never rose to power. That's just the way it goes. Like, something needs to be illegal to get a legal crime around it, right? And if that's, of course, discounting the 18-year-old who somehow gets a six-pack, from whatever. Yeah. So that made a lot of sense. It was like, if you made, say, marijuana legal, you eliminate all the illegal drug trade associated with marijuana. But two things appear to be true. That's not actually true, because although you eliminate it for some, there are still people who either engage in it illegally. There are the cartels that then still try to bring it in. It becomes a lower quality product that's riskier with like fentanyl and stuff in it, all kinds of things. But then you go back to like, okay, let's just do the war on drugs. And that doesn't appear to be working either. Like, what are we missing as far as managing drugs? And do you think that the solution in part is to legalize them? Or do you think keep it all legal and change enforcement? Because obviously Portland has gone a long way to legalizing things. That's not turning out super well.
It's a disaster.
But is that also along with legalizing it, they also have very liberal, other policies, like crime policies. Like, could you have a very law-abiding state and legalize marijuana and not have it turn into Portland? And I don't have an opinion on this. I'm genuinely asking.
The weed is a tough question. The weed is a tough question. And it's a tough question. So, throughout my career in law enforcement, I would never be a hypocrite. Never be a hypocrite where I would not write somebody a traffic ticket. If I ran a red light, I'm not going to write somebody a traffic ticket for running that same red light.
Sure.
Went against everything. And it was, with marijuana, I didn't see the direct impacts. Forget about the long term. I don't know about that, and I can't speak to that.
Sure.
But when I was a cop, I used to say, man, if these drunks would only just pick up a joint or a bong, we'd have no work. We'd have no work because, it's the drunks that are fighting. It's the drunks that are shooting. It's the drunks that are beating their wives or vice versa, whatever. Sure. You don't get that with weed. I never saw it with weed. And for that reason, when I was working as a cop, I was like, man, the first thing I'm going to do when I get told that I'm retiring out, I'm going to try to smoke weed.
Gotta get a little high.
Yeah.
A little celebration.
And my wife, same way. She didn't smoke it in high school, throughout my career, respected my career. So none of that, And so I got notified that my retirement was finalized, done. First thing I did, I called up one of my buddies. I was like, hey, can I get a joint from you? And he starts laughing. He's like, oh, you want a joint? It's like, yeah, I do. And we went up the coast, the Mendocino coast, and we stayed up at this hotel right on the bluff. Little River Inn was the name of it. Anyways, we're up there, and I lit that thing up, and all we did, we jumped in the hot tub, and we just sat there and just watched the ocean. And I was like, This is why nobody's fighting. This is, However,
isn't Mendocino like one of the most dangerous places to go because of the growing operations up there?
Murder Mountain, the cartels are up there. Yeah, it's bad up there. It's gotten so bad.
But again, that's the point. The actual user, the end user of you sitting in a hot tub, and you report that it was zero incident with you.
Yes.
Right? But getting to that point, Murder Mountain, cartel, everything else.
Right, exactly. And I don't know how you deal with that aspect of it.
Sure.
I don't know what the right answer is, but I can tell you that I didn't see a lot of issues with weed unless it was the kids. Because it slows them down.
Oh, yeah.
No motivation, and then before they know it, they're doing it before school, after school, and that's when it was an issue, when I saw it down there. In the meantime, California was banning my zins that I used to do the wintergreen zins. California banned them, but these kids were able to get cannabis pop rocks and grape flavored weed. And it's like, but I can't get my wintergreen zins. It's just backwards to me, very backwards. Right. Even though it's legal in California, but they're going so far on everything else. It just didn't make sense. But
I think it is super complex. And by the way, I don't think everybody's good with alcohol. I don't think everybody's good smoking weed.
Sure.
And I think the risk to young people is, especially developing brain with alcohol and marijuana, extreme, right? And for those reasons, obviously, like 21 is not a bad idea, right? Like nobody needs to be younger and legally enjoying that stuff. But then the idea of restricting it really starts getting after my cackles with, it's like, well, okay, like we make it illegal to drive drunk. We don't make it illegal to get drunk, right? Like, shouldn't, if somebody wants to drink into oblivion, we have no problem with that. But if somebody wants to get stoned, there are various states in the union. They're like, you can or you can't.
Right.
And it's kind of like, it's the same problem I have with only being able to buy alcohol 6 days a week. You can't get it on Sunday. It's like, this is What happened to freedom? Like,
Right.
there's no reason, there's no logistical reason why somebody shouldn't be able to buy beer or, whiskey or whatever they want, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, and again,
Absolutely.
I'm not advocating for legalization. I'm just, it's very difficult for me to get all of the perspectives. It's
Yeah.
just such an odd thing.
Up and down across the country, a lot of police departments have begun or have already eliminated their narcotics units because, we're chasing our tail. It's too much money. It's ineffective. And that's all bullshit. That is all bullshit. If you
Get a little closer to this guy, because
if you talk to anybody who spent any time as a detective, an inspector for any law enforcement agency, they're going to tell you if they're looking for a bad guy, they call the narcs. The narcs are the backbone, I think, of every investigative agency because they're the ones that know everybody.
right.
They know what's going on the street. They know everybody's monikers, their nicknames, their clothes, cars they drive, everything.
They're like the illegal barbers.
100%. 100%. We would solve murders. We solved everything. All it would take is a call. And we would have to remind them, hey, you guys need help with any of your investigations, just give us a call. Because we have files that they don't see.
Sure.
Man, just the knowledge that we gain from being out there and interacting with these people on a daily basis, it's invaluable. And it's really sad to see all these law enforcement agencies get rid of them because it's not popular or politically correct. Who knows? Whatever. I know that here in Idaho, I know that Boise has a pretty good narc unit. But I haven't heard anything about any of the other ones. I know across the country, a lot of them have been wiped out, but I'm assuming here they're trying to keep them in place.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know.
Sheriff, I interviewed Sheriff Clifford last year. And,
Oh, you did?
Yeah. Awesome guy. And we talked very briefly about this. I obviously didn't want to put him on the spot.
Sure.
But we were talking about how the people are moving here and there are laws that are distinctly different. And I think especially with teenagers moving here, you hear about, like back in California, if you got caught with weed,
Yeah.
if you were, like 18 or something, it's not a big, don't get caught on campus.
Yeah.
But it was a slap on the wrist. Everything's a slap on the wrist
Yes.
now in California.
Yeah,
But if
absolutely.
you get caught as a high schooler here with marijuana, like this is a real thing.
Oh, yeah.
And people need to educate their kids and, frankly themselves. It's
Yeah.
like, this is just not, that's not to say people don't smoke weed in the state, but they're taking a calculated risk where it's like, look,
Sure.
this is the real deal here.
Yeah.
Like they're not going to be happy with you
Absolutely.
if they catch you doing this.
Oh man, especially on campus. Especially
Right.
on campus.
Oh yeah,
That would be-
anything. Yeah.
Oh,
Oh yeah, high schools are a train wreck. I mean,
Yeah.
if once you have some people infiltrating and trying to essentially just deal out of the high school,
absolutely.
it's like and again, it's one of those things where the fact that it's illegal, if somebody has a resource for it, it becomes this big thing. But it's
Yeah.
like how many people are sneaking their parents, 208 beer onto campus? Like, well, not many.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's like you have alcohol in houses. People don't have to make this big, operation around alcohol.
Right.
But with, again, marijuana, now it's this thing where it's like you're sneaking in vapes or you're sneaking in joints or you're
Yes.
doing whatever.
Yeah. No, I couldn't imagine now here in Idaho someone getting caught on campus. I bet they probably take it pretty serious.
Yeah. Very, very seriously.
I have no doubt.
Especially at like a high school campus. Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
That's just, I remember even we had problems in high school I went to, which was not a very good high school back in the 90s. And they took it really, really seriously.
Yeah.
And again, less so now, but
Right.
it's still not some, just like if you show up to campus drunk, they're going to take that seriously, even though, alcohol is legal for a 21-year-old.
Yeah, exactly. Did you know, and I just learned this today when I failed it, that in Idaho, funeral procession, you always have to stop
You failed the driving
and
test today?
yield to it. Yeah, I did. And I went in there so cocky. I was like, I know the rules of the road. I got this. And
Was it the signs? Did you get nailed on the
so
signs?
one of the signs got me, and that funeral procession got me. I was on my last question, and I had to get it right to pass it. It was the last one. It was number 40. And I'm like, well, it says always yield
always,
to a funeral procession. I'm like, always. That means even if I'm trying to avoid a collision, I still have to not interrupt. You know what I mean?
I do the same thing on tests. I'm like, that means if there's like a pterodactyl chasing me, I have to just stop. I'm just going to stop. That guy's already dead. I'm about to be dead.
Yeah. So I hit that and it's like, oh, you failed. I was like, shit. How did I just fail this?
Bro, be real with me. How many times have you taken it?
That's the first time.
That's first time.
That's first time. That's it. That's the first time.
I had a buddy who had to take it like 4 times.
Oh my gosh. I missed it by 1.
Yeah.
By 1.
Yeah, I applied for my fishing game license because I've been taking my boys fishing a ton, which is awesome all throughout the area. Like, it's wild. You can drive 10 minutes and you are effectively fishing wherever you want.
I love it.
But I had to get a non-residence because I didn't have my Idaho license yet. I'm like, I gotta go get this thing.
Yeah.
And the DMVs are so pleasant. They're so nice. It's like you go to the one in Emmett, it's like they just let you right in. So they're like, hello, sir. How can I help you? I'm like, are you on a lunch break? They're like, no, just nobody's here. So what do you need?
They were great. Everybody was really nice. I get to see him again on Friday. So
man, how funny is it that that's the way things are in Idaho? Here's something interesting. The cost of everything, let's say utilities in California. I was telling somebody the other day that I think you get to a position living there where you just assume like, oh, all bureaucracies are terrible. Like, this is painful for everyone. Like, utilities are a problem for everyone. You know, this is just the way the world is.
Yeah.
But you leave and you come to a place like this where things by and large function effectively.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we can run our air conditioner 24 hours a day. Yeah. It's not $2,000. Like, you can go to the DMV and they take care of you. It's such a different way of living where it's like, no. Like, by and large, the local government does its best job to just serve you and move on with the world.
Yeah. So my 19-year-old daughter, she actually, I didn't do anything other than have her come up here to visit. Last week, she told me while we were having dinner, she goes, Dad, I think I'm going to transfer to Boise State. And I was like, really? She goes, yeah. She goes, I got to get out of California. And I was like, oh, all right.
Where's she going to school currently?
She's currently at Chico State.
Oh, get the hell out of Chico.
And
you got to be kidding me.
Oh, man. They're having shootings on campus, shootings just off campus. She had a naked dude trying to get into her apartment.
Oh, that's good.
The other day. And I'm like, yeah, enough of that. So she made the decision on her own, you know. And it happened when her boyfriend came up with her. They drove up together.
Oh, very cool.
She brought her car here so I could register it. Anyways, he drove back. He drove back his car, and he says he got to Chico, and he realized what a shithole what a shithole it was, and so he calls my daughter, and was like, I guess we need to get out of here. This place is terrible. Now that we've spent some time up there, he's like, I totally see it.
Yes.
So I'm thrilled to have her. She's going to be coming up in December.
Good for you.
She's going to finish this semester and then hopefully start at Boise State in January.
Has she applied?
She just applied last week. The day after she told me she was going to come up here.
Oh, I was going to say, if she needs help with any of her entrance essays or transfer essays, just let me know.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I mean those. Yeah, I've been telling people that red state public schools are pretty much the last chance people have at like a normal university education. Yes. And I'm not saying everybody should be going to college. That's a conversation for a different day. But to the extent that you want to actually become educated in good faith without politicizing kids and stuff, red state public schools. Because even if you go private school in the blue states, there was a student of mine went to a private Baptist school university in California. And even they started having like the senior seminar was on like sexual orientation and gendering humans and stuff. It's like, what are you doing? Like, I went here because it was my understanding this would be conservative and just deliver a reliable education. And his mom was furious. His mom had homeschooled all of her kids until high school. And that's when I came in and helped them with test prep. And she was like, this is such a joke. Yeah. You know, we spend, her husband's actually a police officer in Berkeley, like very respectable, awesome family. Sure. And they had spent all this time, real time educating their kids, you know, one-on-one, trying to just give them a good shot, and then they send him to this private school, and this kid ends up, he's like, this is absurd. Like he ended up writing a letter to the president of the school. It's like, what are you doing? So again, that's even private,
crazy, religious
in a blue state, and they're already infiltrated.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
I hate hearing that.
It's only a matter of time. You live near Marin Catholic.
Yeah.
I get the Catholic schools in the East Bay, De La Salle and Carondelet. De La Salle is, of course, known for a very, very good football team throughout the country. But even the premier Catholic schools in the area changed the Holy Trinity from Father, Son, Holy Spirit to the provider, the redeemer, and the sustainer because it was non-gendered. And Carondelet started handing out gender-neutral Bibles. I was like, why? What are we doing here?
Unreal. We're going crazy. Kind of on that topic, and you may know because you've been here longer than me. I follow our elections very closely across the country. Do you know anybody that works in the Ada County elections?
Like actually
anybody locally
administering them?
Nah, maybe just works in them, or even when you talk to the sheriff.
I can absolutely find out. I did several interviews with people running for state office.
Okay.
And again, Sheriff Clifford as well. I spoke with him when he was campaigning, so I'm sure I could find out.
Because that's one of the things that I really want to get involved in, and it might be a little dicey, but I want to get involved in it because I think it's something that is absolutely necessary, especially in Ada County.
Did you know that you don't have to provide an ID to vote in the state of Idaho?
It's
like, I remember, I'm gonna pull this picture up because I took a picture. I was so blown away when I went to vote in last year. Here it is. Okay, I'll put this up on the screen too so people can see. You can do Idaho driver's license. You can do U.S. passport. You can do tribal photo identification card, current student photo ID issued by an Idaho high school or post-secondary education, a concealed weapons license issued by, or sign a personal identification affidavit. So all you have to do is sign something saying, I'm Matt. And you don't need to provide any identification. And nobody worries about voter fraud in Idaho. Well, it's like, that's because it's not a swing state. It just goes to show you that if people were really worried about voter fraud, I don't know. I find that to be, and I hear it both on the right and the left. Yeah. Everybody's talking about voter fraud. Everyone's saying that, they're collecting votes from here or cheating votes there or whatever. It's like, oh, I don't know.
So would Ada County elections, I believe they're fraudulent.
Really?
I absolutely do.
Is it because of the personal affidavit?
Because of the machines. Because we use the machines here in Ada County. The Dominion machines or Smartmatic.
Okay, didn't Dominion just win some billion-dollar lawsuit?
They did against Fox, but that was bullshit. Dominion is owned by Vanguard, which Fox is also owned by Vanguard. So what gives there?
Okay,
you know what I mean? It's just...
So Fox made the allegation that the Dominion voting machines were producing fraudulent results. They were unable to produce any evidence to support that.
No, they weren't.
Okay.
They weren't able to. They were not given the opportunity of discovery in their case.
How do you mean?
Because they settled before it had gone into a hearing, before the hearing went underway.
Well, let me back that up. If Fox News had evidence of fraud, they would not have settled. That makes perfect sense.
It makes sense. And I think that's what they're trying to do here, is to make us think that there was no fraud. That's what they're trying to do. I have zero doubt that our machines here in Ada County were absolutely impacted by the fraud that they saw in every other state that uses those machines. No doubt. Zero.
Okay, so why, and again, I'm not arguing.
Sure.
Why? Why do you think that?
So there's a guy, his name is, he's a former Army intelligence captain named Seth Keshel. Okay. I've followed him since the 2020 elections.
Okay.
And followed him as he's been to Ada County a couple times. Actually, as a matter of fact, after I'm done today, I'm going to go find his info on Ada County and I'll share it with you. It is mind-blowing because you would think big red state, nothing. It's here too. Whether or not our election administrators knew about it, I don't know. But if those machines are connected to the internet, which they were, wirelessly, that data is getting ripped from us. They're able to rip it just like the SolarWinds hack. You know, it's the same thing. They have the same ability to do that to our machines. And that's why I think we need to go to pen and paper and ID. That's it. That's the most secure way to do it. I mean, they're the same people telling us that there was no fraud with the Dominion machines are saying, oh, mail-in ballots are safe. That's bullshit too. You deal with kids that go to college. One of my kids in college, she would have stacks of absentee ballots at her one apartment because they were all addressed to that one apartment. But all those kids had moved on.
Oh, had moved away, right.
Yeah.
And they didn't change their address.
And you just fill those out and you send them in. And Maidengate was an example in Nevada. My wife went to UNR, University of Nevada, Reno, and she was registered to vote when she went there. Mm-hmm. She moved out of there a long time ago, got married, kids, the whole thing. In the 2020 election, she cast her ballot in Nevada. And nobody gives a shit. You call the election administrators and they won't call you back. They'll say, oh, no, that was just an error. It's crazy.
Wait, so she actually did vote in Nevada?
Well, somebody used her ballot.
Oh.
Yeah, she didn't vote in Nevada. She voted in California.
So effectively, when your wife's going to UNR, she registers to vote. She moves out, moves on with her life, is no longer living in Nevada. And in the 2020 election, Nevada ostensibly continues sending these absentee ballots or voter ballots to the former address that they have for her. And then in 2020, she gets notification that someone did indeed fill out and submit a vote.
We checked because they don't notify her, but you can check. You enter your name or your identifying info. Where's my ballot?
Oh, man.
Your ballot was counted on such and such date.
How did she vote?
We know how she voted. That was Biden all the way.
No. Like, oh, was it? Like that? Did you find out how?
I'm assuming it was. I'm assuming it was.
Okay, so that's perfect. This is what I'm talking about. I haven't understood how people are frustrated about this. In 5 minutes, you presented a very clear personal anecdote that is very easily understood. There you go. And it's verified. Somebody voted in Nevada in your wife's name because the state of Nevada failed to stop sending ballots. Okay, great. Like, that's a problem. How are we not getting this right?
Right. Show up in person with your ID, a pen, and paper. That's it. We don't need the machines. We don't need all that garbage. It's all nonsense. You know, they're totally manipulated. I have zero doubt about it.
Yeah.
Zero doubt. Fortunately, this whole state is pretty, aligns with my politics, align with most of the state, but that's how they chip away at it.
Yeah, it's amazing, though, because Blair Moss was running for state senate and had a really big backing. She had actually out fundraised her competitor, and she lost by a landslide.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not saying Blair had all the answers to anything, but to your point, it was like, how is this possible? Idaho was very, very conservative.
Right.
Blair was running on what I thought to be a very reasonable platform of just traditional conservative values, nothing crazy. And there's a lot of crazy, in my opinion, on the opposite side at this point.
Yeah.
And hopefully there will be people representing the Democratic side that become more reasonable. Like I listened to the Kennedy interview on Rogan. I found him to be exceedingly reasonable and well-spoken and well thought out. So things like that.
Right.
It was like, okay, well, look, just clean it up. But the point is, when you're dealing with a lot of the concerns that people have, say people who've left California and moved here. And for instance, I don't like the idea that a guy could be in a girl's locker room, which absolutely is happening in the school district that we moved from. I don't like the idea of presenting gender neutral Bibles in a Catholic school. I think that's ridiculous.
Right.
Like, I don't like a lot of these ideas that are kind of core tenets, at least seem to be as of late, of the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
And to see such a landslide go towards the Democratic, it was like, wait, but this state is filled with other people that are quite conservative.
It's rigged. It is rigged. If that was in Ada County, it's rigged. It was rigged. I have no doubt about it. No doubt. And that's what's frustrating. That frustrates me. And you'll hear people say, oh, Boise's turning blue or Boise's blue. I'm calling bullshit. I am calling bullshit. Not just because It's not blue just because one street, Harrison, is it Harrison?
Yeah, I think it's Harrison. Yeah.
With all the flags. No, that's bullshit. This even Boise is red. Even Boise is red. I mean, how many people do you know voted to save Gavin Newsom from recall?
Oh my God, I met one old lady
Okay.
at CrossFit.
Okay.
She was like, "They're trying to take our governor." I was like, "Oh God, I gotta get out of here."
Right.
I was leaving in like a month. I was like, "I gotta go. I can't."
So they're telling us that he got 75% support. Right. That is such complete and utter bullshit.
Yeah, right. As he's cheersing at the French Laundry while we're all trapped at home.
Complete bullshit. And if you can't see that, then you're not going to see the other stuff either. You know what I mean? Right. And it's like, just connect the dots. You know, I feel like they're stealing our country from us. I feel like that. Went and saw Sound of Freedom the other night.
Oh,
man,
gosh.
I strongly encourage everybody to go see it. And it has nothing to do with Republican or Democrat.
No, it's
or
like, hey, if you're a person
liberal.
with a soul, this is going to hit pretty hard.
Right. But the establishment doesn't want anybody to see it because they're fucking in on it.
Right.
They are in on it. And
I don't think Epstein knew a lot of politicians. Did he?
Man, Epstein, he was probably working for the Mossad. And
he was hanging out with Bill. He had a portrait of Bill Clinton in his house.
I know.
He was on Gates's airplane like 25 times, like taking personal trips with the dude. Like he
did a good job getting blackmailing on everybody, but where's it all at?
Oh, right, because they haven't found a single client, or they couldn't produce a single list of individuals who had visited his island, and
such
it's like,
bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, it's the other thing is too. You saw the fallout. So Sound of Freedom hit. Everybody was like, "Oh my gosh!" And then there was a vote that got. They tried to increase the criminal charge in California for human trafficking, child trafficking, and it got shot down. Mm-hmm. And again, you don't want to have to make hard decisions, even though I don't think this is a very hard decision. Like, kill them all, right? Like, totally 100%. Fine with me. Capital punishment.
Absolutely.
You steal a kid or you're trafficking a kid, like, it's over for you, right? Yeah. But you see this huge outcry instantly, and now all these politicians are walking it back. They're like, "Oh my gosh, it was a huge mistake. I should have voted, for this thing. I'll do anything to make it right. Oh, except vote that way." Right. So when it comes down to it, it's like, dude, what are you doing?
They're full of shit. They're full of shit. I had a point that I was going to make.
It's all right. I like the conversation without a point. It's good.
No. What was it? It had to do with... no.
It doesn't matter.
It's all good.
Yeah, it's good. Listen, it's almost 7 o'clock. We've been on for almost 2 hours.
Shit.
Yeah, dude, time flies. You didn't even crack your beer.
Man.
We'll have to drink beer when I come for my massage. My face massage.
Absolutely.
Oh, I can't wait. I'm very excited about it. Mike, Perfect. I appreciate what you do, man. And I appreciate that I feel like the backbone of a productive community is small businesses. Yeah. And like, I'm so taken by the people that are making things happen in this community. Like the Brits over there with the CrossFit gym, and then like people doing boot camps and people doing, the lean feast guy. Like I love the small business, and I love supporting the small business.
I need to get to see Mr. Lean Beast too.
Yeah. Oh, Lean Feast. Oh, I've been meaning to have him on. His food is off the hook.
Okay.
And I pride myself on making good protein. Yeah. This guy is no joke, and I gotta find out.
I want
to
check him out.
Yeah. So again, I appreciate you, man, and I appreciate the risk it takes for somebody to do that. And just I heard the very, very compelling thing. I think it was Professor Hansen, this very conservative, I believe he's teaches at Stanford, but he's a really conservative guy and has a great podcast. A little dry, not super entertaining, but very informative.
Sure.
And he had a video that he did on the middle class and why the middle class has been shrinking so intensely. He's like, in the 40s and 50s, the United States developed a middle class that was so robust and fantastic, and everyone was excited about it.
Right.
And it has been shrinking since then. He was like, well, the problem is middle class people are fiercely independent. They're not relying on the establishment. They're incredibly hard to get to change their minds because they call bullshit, and their self-determination and self-defined destiny is the core tenet of the middle class. Yeah. And part of that is not asking for employment.
Yeah,
You're not
absolutely.
asking anyone. You're not applying or to this job with hat in hand. It's like, look,
Right.
I have this value in the world, and I will trade this value, for your money, right?
Yeah.
And you go and you make your money, and this is how we function, and this is how we become
Absolutely.
people that are not bought and traded by the establishment. So for that reason, I just so appreciate it, man.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's been great. I've got just the build out of my barbershop was all done from guys
Local
right here,
guys, yes.
right here in the neighborhood.
God bless it,
Right
man.
here in the neighborhood, and I'm able to connect some of those guys with other people trying to do
Yes.
stuff. It's awesome. I love it.
Right.
It's a great way to network, even if you're not getting a haircut. If it's my open hours, I encourage anybody in the neighborhood just to drop in, walk down Rainy. You'll see the open garage, and you'll
Just
know.
hit it. Yeah.
You'll know. Just drop in and say hi.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
awesome. Listen, I appreciate you. I'm getting the massage next week. I'm getting you lined up.
Perfect.
Oh, it's on Booksy?
On Booksy.
Okay,
Booksy's
and I'll put a link to it too.
Yeah, you can put the link in. Some people aren't too hip on the apps, and my phone number, you can shoot me a text. It's 406-366-4002.
Perfect.
You can shoot me a text, and then I can enter you into the system going forward from that point on.
Great.
And hopefully that will help people who have been trying to get in with me.
Yeah, right.
They'll just hit me up on that number.
Yeah, well, I see Carl always walking up and down the street with his giant
Yeah,
dog. It's
yeah.
like, I bet that's a man who enjoys a good barber experience. So
Yeah, exactly.
Good stuff, man. I appreciate you. God bless it.
All right, Matt.
Thanks, bud.